Hello, guys. Welcome back to Stephen Somerville Irish Rugby. So for me, Lions Week is upon us, and the nerves for me are starting to kick in big time, and because we've all been debating for a very long time about the Lions, and yes, we've had the Six Nations, we had our local Premiership games, we had our Pro 14 games, but this is the real deal now. This is where all four nations come together, and couldn't be happier today than by being joined by four good people that are actually. I'm representing Ireland, and onto the right of my screen is Kyle from Kapo Starkey Rugby representing Scotland. How are you, mate?
Yes, I'm good, Stephen. Thanks for having me on. How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm doing buzzing. I mean, not just the Lions coming up, but there's a lot of Euros. I've been watching daily, so I've had a lot of football to watch, and but there's been a lot of hard work being done on this channel. So thanks to Cal for that. I'm pretty sure I'll be back on your channel very soon. But it's definitely game time definitely. So I'm on down to Kyle. We've got Freddie Clark from FBTC Rugby, who's representing England. How are you doing, mate?
Fine, thanks. Prem's done now, so focus on the Lions.
Exactly. Well, I played this Premiership final to focus on, so it's not completely over, Freddie. You've got there's a Premiership final tomorrow, or on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah, well, that comes, but from my mind, yeah, that should be a good game. And then I think back-to-back games, so plenty of rugby on Saturday to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And then the last person I'm going to introduce, who's representing Wales, is Cardiff Blues fan Ben from Rock and Roll Rugby. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, mate. Thanks for inviting me, and looking forward to chatting Lions.
Yeah, it's time, isn't it? It's absolutely time, and I think what the Lions what I've gone first, what the Lions bring to us all together is every 4 years. These don't come around every day. I mean, it's when all of us get together in terms of like the best players from each of our countries get together and try and be the best team in the world. I mean, if you remember 4 years ago, that was the last Lions test, and it was against New Zealand, and I remember it must have been one of the most intense and nerve-wracking tours I ever experienced, because I always remember that last test. It could have been one of the hardest games I ever had to watch in terms of rugby. I mean, if any of you four could bring back the memories of that 2017 tour, what would it be? And I'm sure it was that last test, and I'm sure that the what New Zealand brought was pure dominance, and what we brought was pure dominance. I think all those came together. And what was your memories from that 2017 tour in terms of like the nerves that were happening, and did you feel that we could actually win that tour?
You just wanted to start.
I'll go with you, Cal, since you spoke up first.
All right, okay. From a Scottish point of view, very painful because we got no representatives in that test side. But no, from Lions' point of view, I mean the games themselves, whereas especially that third test, about as intense a game of rugby as I can remember watching in recent times. But no, I mean just the nerves, so at the end when there's still been a lot of debate about that penalty that was given as a scrum, whether it was the right decision made there with the kind of accidental offside from the restart. So, and there's obviously but the thing is, you can look through every game of and just think there's always little bits in it that think if that had gone that way or that had gone that way, it would have been different at the end. But no, on the whole, I think the Lions did a very good job in that third test to come back into it, and there's again a lot of conversation that can be had if Bowen Barrett had his kicking boots on for the whole series. New Zealand would have won comfortably, possibly, or if Sonny Bill Williams hadn't been sent off in that second test. So, yeah, just but no, in terms of nerves, yeah, I can understand. Very nerve-wracking towards the end, but I think the draw was just about the right result.
Oh yeah. I mean the draw. I think the draw at the end was it was very confusing. I don't know. Remember the crowd? I think the crowd were a bit shocked as well. They didn't know how to expect it. You weren't used to drawing in these circumstances, and if you remember we went and tied the game, and we could have had a chance to actually go on and win the game. But if you remember, it kicks off again from a New Zealand perspective. One of the players of Lions is caught offside, and if you remember, a penalty goes New Zealand's way. And oh my goodness, I thought that was the tour done. I mean, until I think Sam Warburton put it back in. Remember, and Kieran Reid actually argued with the referee at the end of that. But those are the memories. If you remember, those what bring the Lions together. I'll go to you, Freddie. From 2017, that intensity, sort of what we showed, we could have been the best team in the world. Did you feel like we could have beat the All Blacks in that final test if we could? What was your perspective on the 2017 tour?
I think you could say the result happened, what happened. But I think maybe before the tour going ahead, I didn't think we were going to come and win. I know that sounds a bit pessimistic, but I didn't think we win. I think All Blacks down there in the Southern Hemisphere, I didn't think win. But just the intensity, the physicality, all aspects of the game was so incredible. And I don't think we've seen like proper test match like that since. And it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, definitely. Ben, from a Welsh perspective, when you watched 2017, there were some few Welsh players in there. I mean, Sal Warburton led that team to, he could have went. I think Warburton would have went down if we would have won that test. He could have went down as one of the greatest captains we ever had. It was just a bit unlucky for Warburton to not just get that over the line in a way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a tough one, and like similarly to what the other guys have said, I think going down there, you play in the best club sides in the world, with the squad as it's building, and you look in other tours when you play like some of the club sides, the Australian club sides not as good, the South African sides we've seen a little bit more of them of recent times, but yeah, in the build up to that tour, you're getting knocked back every single game, and like like seeing those 100-odd-0 wins against those lower down sides, they were really close, all of them. So I think that prepared them really well for the test series, but that third test, like you've said so far, the intensity in it was like something I'd never seen before. But I just think the Lions' determination, because they didn't score a try, the Lions, in that third test, but they were never out of it. They just kept digging, and through the physicality, I think Warburton probably will still go down as probably one of the greatest Lions captains of all time, simply because he came away with a tour win and a tied series. And how many tied Lion series do you see? So his name will always come up in those conversations. But yeah, it was a fantastic tour, and I think a draw series was probably the fair result. I think there's probably more than any Lions fan could have hoped for, because I know similarly to the other boys as well, I was thinking 3-0 all day long, in test series, and especially the way the first test panned out, it looked as though that was going to be the way. But the Sonny Bill red card sort of turned around that second test, and it gave the Lions hope, and I think that hope was shown, really clearly in that third test.
Definitely. If you think about it, we had the team I thought was on paper to be the best team in the world, but it's just unfortunate you had the likes of Kieran Reid and there Sonny Bill Williams. If Sonny Bill Williams doesn't go off, that's potentially it could have gone against us. There's so many things that I look back on that tour and think there's certain things we could have done better than that. You know what I mean? But if you remember when you're always watching the Lions films and you get an insight to what it's like behind the scenes, then they're clearly zoned in. It was just it's just them things where you can't get it done on the day on some occasions, but I think that 2017 tour will go down as one of the most memorable tours we'll ever remember. But that's not what we're focusing on here today. We're now going to go into 2021, 4 years later, and I kind of like when it comes to Lions weeks, like we've heard the squads being announced now. That's been about a month and a half ago, and it's amazing how far we've come already with that announcement. And when it comes to the week itself, it doesn't mean it's not the actual first test against South Africa, but the actual week leading up to maybe the first warm-up game, which is going to be against Japan this Saturday. What's your nerves like in terms of the actual week heading into what you're going to be expecting in the next month? Is going to be pure high-intensity, world-class rugby. What's it like for you in terms of the week itself? Like, do the nerves kick in, or is it more chilled out and what to expect? And I'll go to Freddie on that one first.
If you look at from 2017, the first warm-up game, if you look at teams, he doesn't really normally. This is normally the case. He mixes about in these warm-up games before he goes test some players out, and I think that's what you're seeing with I think Van der Merwe and quite a few of the England boys are not turned up yet because due to the competitions they're in. But I think it'll be interesting. This is a good chance to see how combinations together, how this team works, and I think it could be a really opportunity to see how this new group of
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, when you think about it on those lines, it's definitely agreeable. Cal, what's it like for you in Lions Week? Because I know it's pretty much either chilled or sort of like laid back. If you wake up the next morning going, it's actually matched out, right? We're here. We know what we have to do. What's it like for you, Cal, on the week?
Oh, just again, fairly. At the moment, I'm actually fairly chilled about it. Like, probably be when it gets to Saturday, I'll probably be like, yes, it's starting. But yeah, no, like I said, I'm just looking forward to getting rugby out of the way because we can talk till the cows come home. We could say like, oh, this player should have been picked, that player should have been picked, or that player should have been dropped, etc. But yeah, when it actually kicks off and started, that's like when you really like feel the butterflies going, and you feel the nerves, and you sort of then that's when sort of if it's going to be a shot of destiny or whatever it's going to be, that's when it really starts. Yeah. I mean, I think it was Jim Telfer who said that getting selected is the easy bit, but it's actually winning a Lions series that's the ultimate. So that's I echo that sentiment.
I think he's frozen.
Yeah, well, if I just jump in before he comes back,
yeah,
I'm quite similar to you, Kyle, in that respect because it's for me at the minute, like just with things going on around as well, like it's just only now crept up on me that it's Lions Week, and I was saying to Stephen when we were having a chat about doing this, I said, it wasn't until last weekend that I actually realised that it was test week. Like call it a test match because we'll jump in and have a chat about the sides shortly. But, when you start to see that first side is announced, the news starts to come through about players that are made it, players that haven't made the first team. You start to think, right, it's real now. And fingers crossed, things all go well. I know there's a couple of issues that have happened regards to we've had 2 changes to the side already. Obviously we've seen Hamish Watson. Kyle, you must have been absolutely heartbroken seeing that Hamish is injured.
Yeah, well, thing is, the injury is just, I think they're both seen precautionary more than anything else, which is understandable. I mean, obviously, someone gets a concussion, like in training, the protocols, you have to adhere to them. So, knowing Mish is the hard man he is, it'd probably just be a bang to the head, just a precautionary. And Xander Fagerson's one's just a back spasm. So again, precautionary, but I mean, totally understandable because this game really, without any disrespect to Japan at all, because it'll still be a hard game. This game is more just the kind of springboard to go into the tour. So
yeah. I always think back to because we haven't done one of these for a few years now. We did the Barbarians game at the start of the Australian tour in 2013. There wasn't one of sorts in 2017. It was pretty much straight into the tour. So it's good to see one of these come back as well and see that we're going to have a warm-up game. But looking at the side Japan have picked as well, there's some big names in there and some big performers. So the last thing I would want is the Lions to take this game lightly, but at the same time, it's an important chance, for these boys, because some of them, there's, like you said, there's been so much talk about who's going to make the test side, who's going to make the replacements for the test side. It's all down to the players now to put their hands up and say, look, I'm here to be selected. And for those 15 guys on the field and the 7 replacements on the weekend, that's their chance to show that they are those people. 8 replacements, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So our host's back now.
Connection problem, seriously. I hit them so much, man. Did I miss anything, or what did you just cover?
We just jumped in and we were saying now that obviously as soon as that team was announced, the Lions had named their 15, it all becomes real. And like when I spoke to you about it, Stephen, I was just saying to the boys now, it wasn't until I'd spoken to you as well that it actually dawned on me that we're a week away from the first Lions game. So I wouldn't say it's nerves as such. I think the excitement is building. My nerves always usually kick in around, a week, 10 days out from the first test.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, similar to them. I think these because of being the I completely forgot about the Lions coming with this warm-up game coming so soon. Because I've been focused on the Premiership, and you just completely forget with all these after match you complete. Obviously, the names announcement was big, but a month ago. But overall, I think for me, I've got and now it starts on Friday and Saturday. It'll start to build up properly.
Oh yeah, I think the game's going to kick off at around I think it's either 3 or 5, but it's around that time. So what I'm going to what I'm going to put up in
It's
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, yeah.
Oh, okay. So 3 o'clock. It's going to be against Japan, which I'm going to move on to the next section. Is actually going to be the squad. If I can get up here, because it's very much going to be I think I'm trying to get up here because it's so hard to find the squad. But it's very much Rory Sutherland number 1, Ken Owens 2, Sander Ferguson number 3.
That's been changed, Steve. You were just discussing that, Stephen.
Yeah.
That's Furlong now.
Oh yeah, it's Furlong. My bad. I'm going to get into that. Ian Henderson, my Ulsterman, is going to be paired alongside Alwyn Jones, the tour captain, with Type Byrne, Justin Tipperick in for the late Hamish Watson, with Jack Conan, and the backs make up
late Hamish Watson. He's not dead. He's not dead, mate.
I'm sure you're gutted about that, mate. I'm sure you're gutted.
He's not dead. He just knocked his head.
Oh yeah, sure knocked his head, bro. Aye, definitely. So Conor Murray in the box with Dan Bigger, number 10. Irish Perrin of Bundyaki and Robbie Henshaw with G.H. Van der Merwe, Liam Williams, number 15, and Josh Adams to finish off with number 14. And I must say, lads, the bench is pretty in form. I've been honest with it. Jimmy George, Wyn Jones, Cal Sinclair, Courtney Laws, Toby Falata, Ali Price, Owen Farrell, Anthony Watson. Now, you might have explained a bit when I was away, but what I'm turning to this section is certain players. I don't think this is going to be the main team that's going to face the South Africans. There's definitely going to be some ins and out goings in terms of going forward. I kind of want to get into Rory Sutherland and Sandra Ferguson from a Scottish point of view. Cal. Rory Sutherland has done really well for Edinburgh and Scotland, and also as Ferguson. But if you remember, Ferguson had a bit of a setting off there in the Six Nations. Kind of like sort of unlucky for him. But to be paired for them two to be paired alongside Ken Owens for this match, how do you see them going along with it? Do you think they'll have a good game with Ken Owens in the match?
Well, with Xander Ferguson pulled out injured now with his he's got a back spasm problem. No, don't worry about it, mate. He's got a back spasm problem, so it's more a precautionary thing above anything else. With Rory Sutherland, I'm a little bit surprised he's managed to get himself back to full fitness in time for this game because he suffered an arm injury in the final Six Nations match against France. But no, I'm glad to see him back because I think he's actually got a really good shout of making being the test prop. I know stiff competition, obviously with Mako Vunipola and Wyn Jones, but no, I think he's I'd argue he's probably the best scrummager and most dynamic ball carrier of the three. I know the other guys and there's other folk who might be watching this who'll disagree with me there, but that's what I think. I think alongside Ken Owens, I think that's going to be a good, tasty front row, especially with Furlong at 3 now. Ken Owens showed in the Six Nations he's got it in him to be consistent with his line-out throwing, but he needs to be stepping up that with the Lions because obviously throughout his Wales' career, as Ben will tell you, he's had his moments where he can be shaky in that department, but he's an all-round decent hooker. So no, I think that's a very good front row, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's that we see in the first test, but of course a lot of rugby still to be played before then.
Well, if you remember, I was going to put it up on this, Cal. I was actually I wanted to put this up because if you remember, Cal Sinclair's come in for Andrew Porter. And if you think about it, Warren Gatland selected Andrew Porter over Cal Sinclair, but unfortunately Porter gets injured and he brings in Cal Sinclair. But even before Ferguson's not in this match day squad this Saturday, you would have to think that Gatland wouldn't really pick a Sinclair on the bench over Ferguson. Do you think Gatland is going over Ferguson over a Kyle Sinclair going forward if he hasn't picked Kyle Sinclair in the actual squad back in May?
It's hard to tell right now, Stephen. Again, I think it's fair to say that Tao Furlong will be the first choice tight head prop, but it's very, very much like down to form, I'd say, to who gets the bench spot for that role. So at the moment, I'd say it's fairly 50-50. I mean, again, I understand obviously with Kyle Sinclair's just been in an injury call-up, but we know his qualities as a player. He's got every chance of making the Test 23. So I'd say it's 50-50.
I think, Joe, I would agree as well. If you're picking Kyle Sinclair from what he did in 2017, that it would have been a no-brainer. But to see when I saw him not being picked for the squad, it was a bit weird for me. And I think my standards, I don't see a Kyle Sinclair on this bench, if I'm being honest with you, in terms of Warren Gatland's. Whereas in terms of what he did in May, in terms of picking his first team squad, I think he's going to be picking the players he got first. And he's pinned the players that were not selected or being injury call up, being sidelined and just going. You'll get a call up. It just depends on when. So I see that's where I see that going. Ben, I wanted to get your thoughts on Alan Wynne-Jones. He's going to be paired up with Ian Henderson this Saturday. Now I don't think that's going to be the lock pairing in the actual tests, but when you look, I don't think people gave Alan Wynne-Jones a bit of a shout for this Lions tour about a few months ago. I think he had a rough patch for the Ospreys. But he comes in for Wales and he has a great Six Nations and wins them a title. Alan Wynne-Jones, do you think he can actually lead the squad go in this test series against the Springboks? And do you think he'll be able to make a stance than what Sam Warburton did in the previous tour?
Yeah, I think if you look at Alan Wynne-Jones as a captain, and I think you mentioned them earlier on the Lions films where you get to see sort of an insight into it. The way he captains the side, he's very calm. He's very objective-led, so he knows what the players need to achieve, and he goes about it in a very cool and calm way. And you look back through the years, you've got the likes of Paul O'Connell, and you're watching the 09 tour, and he's giving his talks before the matches, and he's every other word is F, and he's just screaming at the players. And like Alan Wynne is not. Yeah, but Alan Wynne is. I think Alan Wynne is a different sort of. He's still aggressive and he still asserts himself, but he does it in sort of an intimidating way. So he does it in such a calm and collected way that the players naturally respond around him. And I think that's one thing that they're going to need down in South Africa is there are going to be times in this test series where their backs are against the wall, and it's going to take a cool, calm, collected captain to be able to stand up and go, "Look, boys, this is what we need to do. We're not out of the game yet. This is the things we need to do." And I think he'll definitely do that. And I think it's a great opportunity for Ian Henderson beside him, because I think you've got to say, looking into it, out of the lock selections, Ian Henderson was one of the ones where people were going, "Oh, I'm not too sure about that one." But he's got his chance. He's a great ball carrying option. And you mentioned it then, I think if you look at the pack as a whole, especially at the front row, the options you've got in aggressive ball carriers is unbelievable. And I think that will be something they'll play to on Saturday. But yeah, I think Alan Wynne will definitely be a leader of men, and he will inspire these guys all the way through the tour.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And I was just sticking with the locks because I feel like when I look back on the lock options, we could have a lot of options there. We could have. I mean, James Ryan. I think James Ryan is for Ireland is they're comparing him to Paul O'Connell, but I think it's too early for him. He's going to be captain in the USA. But I think if James Ryan gets in the Lions tour over Johnny Hill, does that work? I think Gatland's gone for his way of thinking how we're going to beat the Springboks. Do you when I look at Johnny Hill, I can see why he's doing it for Exeter. I can see why he's the sort of player you think he could do well for Exeter, but he comes off the bench for England, and that's all he gets. But people like Mario Toja and George Cruz are ahead of him, but Johnny Hill, I don't think he's going to have much of a chance for the first or the seconds or the third main test. But I feel like for Johnny Hill, it's sort of like I was a bit surprised when James Ryan was out. I don't know about you, so do you think James Ryan, if he was in the squad, do you think James Ryan would have been more of a better option than Johnny Hill, or do you think Gatland sees something in Johnny Hill that might work? I'll go to Freddie on that one.
The thing is, the Johnny Hill, I think the athleticism, Johnny Hill, I think that's why he's gone over James Ryan. I think also when an Exeter because he suits Exeter ground, they liked it. He's a very physical player. I think he's not quite done it at the international game yet, but I think it'll be interesting to see what he does. But I think he's just there for caution. He's there, but I don't think there are better options in his teammate Johnny Gray. But I think he's going to try and out fitness South Africa as it looks the locks he's picked. He's going to try and run them around the park. Like Johnny Hill likes to play in the wide areas quite a lot. And maybe we might see him play in Tipperick in some senses. He likes to play in the wide channels too. So we may see that at times.
I think when going back to the lineup, Courtney Laws. Yeah, Courtney Laws was a bit of a surprise. I'll stick with you, Freddie. Courtney Laws. I don't think he wasn't in the squad for England in the Six Nations. And he's going to be on the bench for England. Now he can play the flanker and he can play the locks. Do you think Courtney Laws could surprise some people and he can actually do something on this tour?
Yeah, since he's come back from injury, he's been unbelievable for Saints. He's best position. He won't play second row. He's very similar in like the best positions to Ty Burn. The best position is 6. I don't think Laws is nowhere near as good at in second in a good. He's much better at 6 than he's in the second row. But I can see why people are shocked because he hadn't played any rugby since the Six Nations. At the start of the Six Nations where he got injured, but it would not surprise me if Courtney Laws did start because I think he's been on form.
Yeah, definitely on the Cal. I'll come to you. And Hamish Watson's not playing this week, but he was in line to play, and Justin Timberlake has come in. For you, Hamish Watson, you've seen him in the Nations, and he's been I think he's been one of the top number 7s coming out of that tournament. And do you see in your opinion, do you see a Hamish Watson doing a better job at that number 7 role than a Justin Timberlake, or how do you see that going between them two?
Yes, I'm gonna let my heart rule my head as much as Ben might get a little bit upset with me there, but I think I'll say in terms of height and line out ability, you'd have to say Tipperick's got the advantage there, but in terms of and possibly in the wider channels, I think Tipperick's a bit better, but in terms of just his ability to be an absolute nuisance, his ability to be a bit more nifty with his ball carrying and just the amount of work he does around the pitch. I think he is capable of the line out as well, Hamish Watson. No, I'd have him as my test 7, maybe somewhat speaking from the heart there. Just because just what he does and like how much he brings to the team, and also I think he'd be very awkward for the bigger South African pack. He's certainly not too small to play international rugby at all, despite what some idiot journalists who work at I think does he work at the Times, Stephen Jones? I can't mind. I don't really I don't really follow him apart from when he said that. I mean he's more than capable of causing the Springboks a lot of problems, and he could with his slower center of gravity as well. He's got the ability to get under the bigger box forwards and give them a hard time. So no, I mean, I'd have him as my test 7, but I mean, I'm Tipperick's a quality player as well, and my opinion is no disrespect to him at all.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you would agree with that. Don't come to you, Ben. Like Justin Tipperick, do you feel like you would go for Hamish Watson, or would you stick with Justin Tipperick in terms of his wheels starting out performances?
I think it is very much down to how Warren Gatland is going to play. And I can see, I agree with Kyle in all the respects. The fact that Hamish Watson, he is a nuggety ball carrier, and in sort of a slightly pessimistic way, the way that he carries the ball could gain us quite a few penalties, especially if it becomes like sort of a forward dominant ball carrying game. He's got that low center of gravity, and with those big, 6'8" locks for the Springboks in particular, trying to get low and tackle him, especially the way we've seen the high tackles refereed in weeks gone by. There could be penalties that come out as a result of that that could relieve pressure, but I just think Tipperick is a different beast. He's almost like an extra back in the forwards as well, but he does the work that a forward does as well. He gets in on those turnovers. He's probably not as good a ball carrier, but I don't think, especially if you look at the lineup he's got on Saturday, when he's got the likes of Jack Conan, Tide Furlong, Ken Owens around him, that won't be necessarily his job. And if we look at the way the Lions played in 2017 with the likes of Faletau playing out in the wider channels, that's definitely something that Tipperick could do. He could play that role. And it'd be interesting to see how the Lions line up on Saturday and what sort of game plan they use, because you usually see quite clearly in the first warm-up game, because they're playing page by page from the playbooks. You know, they write, when the ball is slow, we do this move, this move, this move. When it starts to get to quicker ball, players move to A, B, and C. So it'll give us a good insight into what sort of side will be selected for the test Saturday, because I think the play style, if it's a wide open, expansive game Gatland wants to play, he's more than likely going to pick Tipperick. But if he wants to play that close and get into that arm wrestle with the South African forwards, he could well go with Hamish Watson. You know, it's, you know, like we say in all this speculation now, I just want to see him play some rugby so we can start to actually try and work some things out.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I wouldn't complain if either of them started. I've been honest with you. I mean, if they're both good players and they deserve to start, I mean, it's definitely going to be important to make sure the scrums are right, to make sure that the line breaks are key going forward, because that's what it is. I mean, I think the next topic I want to bring up here is based upon, I want to put this onto the fly half situation and the scrum half. So I'm basing this on the backs now, and I think we all know Conor Murray is going to be the number 9 going into the tour. And now Johnny Saxon not been picked. I think it's obvious, because I don't think Johnny Saxon has lived up to the standards of being the fly half that he was for this Lions tour, which is a shame, because I think Johnny Saxon would have helped calm that shit down a wee bit. But when you have an Owen Farrell in that squad, he's not in the best of forms. He's playing for Sargent's team that are in that second division of the English league, but they're going to get promoted likely. But he's playing against the.
No, they've sorry to correct you, Stephen. They've been promoted now because they won both their playoffs.
That's what I'm saying. They've been promoted now. But Owen Farrell has had some games where in the Six Nations he hasn't had a good tournament. He's been playing against oppositions that are very less than well. You know what I mean? And, for me, the fly half debate is very interesting, because I feel like if Garland has gone for Dan Bigger over Owen Farrell this Saturday, I can totally understand that, because it's down to form. But what happens when it comes to the actual test gate day? What if Garland goes for Owen Farrell at 10? I mean, I personally don't want to see that. I think I want to see Dan Bigger at 10, because I feel Dan Bigger is has more form going into this game in the tour than what Owen Farrell is doing. I mean, I think Garland might go for Farrell at 12, and then it'll be Henshaw at 13. I think that's the way I see it going, and I'm gonna go to all you on this one. Owen Farrell, would you have a Dan Bigger over an Owen Farrell at number 10, or would you see an Owen Farrell at 12 and maybe Perman or Henshaw, or would you like to see something different, or just not have Owen Farrell in the near the team of not whatsoever, just to keep that form going? I'll go to Cal on this one first.
I wouldn't have Farrell in the Test 23 at all, to be honest. Mainly just because he's I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I think both Bigger and Russell offer more than him as a 10. As a 12, he can be that extra playmaking option if they want to play more expansive. But I think they'd be a better option with Bigger at 10 and maybe Finn Russell off the bench, and then Henshaw at 12. And this is me maybe just going by heart more than my head. I'd have Harris at 13. But I mean, I know with the way we can get onto the centres later. That's fine. We'll just talk about the 10 debate. I mean, no, I wouldn't have Farrell in my 23. But I mean, I do expect him to be there if Gatland can get him back up to his best form, we know he can be a class operator. But I think he's also a big liability, especially with his. When he does go for the high, I don't want to call them tackles, like when his shoulder does somehow making contact in areas that they shouldn't. So I mean, I think that side of his game can make him a liability as well. But I mean, that's just what I think of him. I don't rate him as much as a lot of the inner circle of the Lions seem to. But it's a shame we have to say it's a real shame we have to say that, because I think Owen Farrell was absolutely. He was one of the best players I followed on that Lions tour. I think he played a few games. It could have been 10 or 12. But I think Owen Farrell was putting them kicks in against New Zealand, and then 4 years later, he hasn't lived up to the standards. I mean, I'm gonna go to Ben next on Owen Farrell.
I mean, you're a Welshman. You want to see a Dan Bigger, probably number 10. But would you take a Dan Bigger over an Owen Farrell of what's going on in terms of now in form?
You've got to. I mean, if this was a 13 game series, then I would say the chances are the Farrell would get a start, but it's a short run up to the first test. Farrell has had some better rugby, and if you read the reports, especially from the playoffs, he led the Saracen side really, really well as they got a massive win in both games in the playoff. The thing I don't like with Farrell is that temperamental side to throw a shoulder, to make a bad pass. We saw in Wales in the Welsh game down in Cardiff. I know it was a difficult start for England. The way that we got that those first 2 tries, which were heavily contested, but I think his head goes and he goes missing in games. And the one thing you've got to say for Bigger is that if he's having a poor game or if he's having a good game, he still delivers on the highest of levels. Going into the Lions squad's announcements, you would have seen that I said I wouldn't have even picked Farrell to go on this tour. I think there's far better players available to go. But then it's come out this week now that Farrell's only just joined the squad this week out in Jersey for their warm-up camp, and the reports coming out that every single player in the squad has voted Farrell as one of their leadership team because he does offer that leadership quality. This is his 3rd Lions tour now. He went to Australia in 13, New Zealand 17, and obviously South Africa now in 21. He does offer that leadership quality, but we haven't seen him provide that as a captain, and I think the captain's armband has played a really negative impact on the way he plays. So I think if he is just given the freedom to play and Gatland can get the best out of him, chances are he is in that test side, whether it's 10 or 12. But at this moment in time, I think we just need to see him play and see how he's going to cope.
I think Farrell for me. I wouldn't have the nearest squad. I'll get to Freddie. I'll get to Freddie in a moment. But I want to think of Farrell is for me, when I watched him back in the 2017 film, if you remember the behind the scenes stuff, I thought Farrell was a good leader. I thought Farrell was one of them leaders, not just Warburton or Wyn Joneses or the Sextons. I think Farrell was immense to that happening. But I'm going to come to Freddie now. I mean, you're an England fan. You're a pure England fan, and you see Farrell playing for. You might not be a Saracens fan, but you watch Farrell play for England in this term back in the Six Nations. For you, what's your stance on Farrell, and how would you want Farrell in terms of the squad? Would you not have him at all in the squad, or would you want him maybe say starting or on the bench?
I think just he's going to be in there no matter what the case, and no matter what you say, Farrell is taking the leadership, but Saracens' leadership's taken off him. He's so much better fly half. Because when you have pressure on you as a captain, you want to deliver, and I think that gets him hot-headed no matter what people say. He's been playing in the Championship, but it's Championship. Ealing could beat quite a few Premiership sides, put them off. But I think he wouldn't start fly half. He's going to start inside centre. If you look at previous Lions tours, he didn't start the first step, but he started the other 2. And Gatland, I think, will like him, and he will have that kicking at 12. And I think he'll. That depends it really depends how Gatland wants to play, but we'll see what happens. It's his choice. But I think Farrell would be in my 23.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view on Owen Farrell, I think he's going to be playing number 12. I say Gatland playing Owen Farrell 12. I think leadership will be needed. I don't particularly want to see that, but if Gatland get the best out of Farrell, then if he has a good tour, then we'll be back here. We'll all come back here saying, we're all wrong, and Farrell had a great tour. But it's too early for that now, and it's all how wrong would we be for that matter? But I think I see Farrell in the squad eventually, which I don't think most of us like, but I think that's the way I see it going. I'm going to move on to like you said, the centres now. I think we covered the fact of like Kyle. You want to say Chris Harris with Robbie Henshaw, but Bundyaki is been, with his Irish partnership has been named with Robbie Henshaw and Bundyaki the starter. I mean, now Bundyaki came in against England in March, and I remember them two having I think Bundyaki gets sent off, but overall I think he has a good game. I thought it was a shame of him being sent off. It was just unlucky for him, but Aki and Henshaw started. I know it won't be it might not be the main center partnerships going forward, but I think that I'll go to Freddie on this one. Henshaw and Aki that started. What do you want to see from them? And do you think they can have that chemistry from the Irish put into there? And do you think it'll work against Japan?
Yeah, I think against Japan, yeah, I think it will work. But if you look, Gatland does like a big ball carrier on his side. He likes that ball, but I would have him in my 23. I think he can be inconsistent. He can be really good, but if he's really good, can be really not so good. But I think there's better options in those centres at the moment.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll come to Cal next. I'm sure if it wouldn't surprise me if Cal was going to pick Bundyaki off a good game, but yeah, I think you said earlier you want to see a Chris Harris along with Robbie Henshaw. Do you think that chemistry could work? Do you think Robbie Henshaw can actually give Harris a bit of experience from that and showing Harris that Harris can then continue on after having a good partnership with Henshaw? Is that what you want to see going forward?
Yeah, no, I think in terms of worth noting that Chris Harris is older than Robbie Henshaw, by the way. So, but yeah, no, in terms of in terms of actually like a balance, I think that is a good partnership to have Henshaw at the inside, because Henshaw, I think he is at the moment he's one of the first names on the team sheet for the test side. Absolutely. So I think he has to be one of the centers. And he's got the ability to do pretty much anything. Henshaw, he can crash. He's got good footballing skills. He's got a nice balance about him. But I think like Chris Harris, outside of him, Chris Harris's defense, he's up there with the best defensive 13s in the Northern Hemisphere right now, I'd say. But also his linking work, I think he'd link up very well with those outside him. I'd argue in that department he'd probably be a bit better than Henshaw at doing that. And when you have Henshaw inside, like he could break the game line, but he'd also like with his could add a bit of variety as well to that. So I think that would be a good balance. But in terms of, I think actually the Aki Henshaw partnership is what Gatland is looking at very closely, because he has said on record that's what he liked looking at with the Ireland England game. He said that was one of the areas that stood out for him before Bundyaki got sent off, of course. Was that partnership, and he thought that that it's something he really wants to focus on. And as Freddie alluded to, and as we all know, Gatland loves his 12s that bash it up down the middle of first or second phase attack. As we know, with Wales, went that way with Jamie Roberts, Hadley Parks to an extent with the Lions, Jamie Roberts, Ben Teo in past tours. So I think like Bundyaki is definitely there for that kind of role, and he'll be looking to see how they are as a centre partnership for this tour. Absolutely. But whether that'll be the test centre partnership, we'll have to wait and see.
I mean, Ben, we heard the thoughts on what Cal thinks of Chris Harris and how he feels it'll be a great partnership with Henshaw. But I feel like what if Bundyaki has a good game with Robbie Henshaw this Saturday, and Gatland wants to pick Bundyaki over Chris Harris. Well, for you, Ben, I'll put a bit of a quiz on you. Would you rather have a Chris Harris or Bundyaki in there, or how do you see? How do you want to see it going in the centre partnership wise?
If you want my honest opinion, I'd say neither. I think that if you look at Lions tours gone by, where the Lions gain their success is when you've got someone in the midfield that can create a little bit of magic and can get that sort of line break and that front forward ball. Jonathan Davis did it to a superb extent against New Zealand in 2017. Brian O'Driscoll in 2013. Jonathan Davis as well in 2013 as well. So they're the centres you want to see. And I don't think, apart from Henshaw to an extent, that the Lions have picked a centre that can break the gain line in terms of finding a space and finding footwork. Gatland is trying to make his own spaces by picking big players that are going to run holes through them. And like we've talked about the debate that if Farrell plays, he doesn't play at 10, he plays in the midfield. And I'll be honest, I'm with Freddie on that. I think for me, he's probably test 12. But that only leaves one centre option then. And for me, it's Henshaw. I think he's been the standout centre. And to be honest, it's probably easiest option for Gatland, because if you are going with Henshaw and someone else, I'd probably have Harris on the bench if it is a close test match to close the game out, because his defensive abilities are second to none. And a lot of people underestimate how well he does do in those wide areas as well. He's played rugby on the wing for Gloucester as well. He's not a slow guy, but his defensive awareness and his defensive organisation is what probably will get him onto that replacements bench against South Africa, I suspect. But starting wise, I think Henshaw's got a test jersey, but I think the other one, it depends if Gatland wants to make holes or whether he wants to find holes.
Exactly. It's all going to come down to warm ball, that famous saying.
Yeah.
Warm ball. And I think that's what it's going to be in this tour. But no, I think it could work out good. I think we're near all agreed it could be Owen Farrell alongside Robbie Henshaw. I personally don't see a Chris Harris or Bayaki coming in for the main tests. I generally think Gallen's going to pick leadership and he's going to pick experience over this one. I think Henshaw and Owen Farrell would have been in. I think Jonathan Davis was on the previous tour. I think Jonathan Davis on this tour would have been a bit sort of needed in a way. I don't know about you. I think Jonathan Davis, hasn't let anyone down in terms of that position. I think if you would have had Jonathan Davis in there, it would have relaxed these, and you could have had the pairing of Henshaw and Davis in there this year. But I just didn't get why Farrell and Gatland didn't pick Davis on that one. I mean, I'll come back to sorry Ben. I'll come back to you on that one. Do you think it was unlucky for Jonathan Davis not to get in the squad?
He wasn't good enough, mate, and that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Gatland has said as well that it was extremely hard to leave Jonathan out. He's got 2 successful tours behind him. He was excellent in Australia, and probably hard for an Irishman to take. But he effectively pushed Brian O'Driscoll out of the test side in that 3rd test in Australia, and then in 2017, and then in 2017 he was named man of the series. So it's you can't underestimate the credentials that Jonathan Davis has, but the bottom line of it was he just wasn't good enough, and quite rightly so, that he was left out. And I think it's being vocalized as well, not just by Gatland, but from other people as well, that he's probably not the first name on the call-up list. I would have loved to have seen like a Henry Slade in there. Would have given so many different options if we'd have had someone like a Henry Slade in there. Obviously, sadly, Manu 3 games is out injured again, but I think his name would have been an interesting one to have in the mix as well, because he offers a bit of both. He offers the fast footwork and the power game, but he's out injured again. But it's hard. It's hard on Jonathan Davis, but I think at the end of the day, ultimately, he needs to concentrate on getting himself back to that top level, and he is fully capable of doing that. He's far from past his best. But he's just got to work hard now and get himself back into that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be Farrell and Henshaw in the 10-8 test. But what I want to see from Bayaki this Saturday is what he's doing, what he does with Henshaw of Ireland. Have it composed, have it informed going forward, because I want to see that this Saturday. But that's the centres over. We're going to finish off with the 15s, the 11s, and the wings. Now, Liam Williams is starting for the Lions this Saturday, and we all would expect to see Stuart Hogg in there, but I think Stuart Hogg has other priorities at the moment in terms of playing somewhere else at the moment. But he'll come back straight in as soon as he can when he gets into the Lions camp. Yeah, for me, and you also have Van der Merwe and Josh Adams, and when you think about it, Lewis Reese Williams is still in there. I mean, who else isn't there? Could have been still in there? Good top players. I mean, Lewis. I mean, I want to get into this. I think Josh Adams and Julius Van der Merwe, who are going to be starting this Saturday, if they have blinders this Saturday and they end up having great games, Do you think that's good competition for the likes of a Lewis Rees-Salmons or something like that? Because I think Lewis Rees-Salmons is going to be the likely 14 or 11 to start in the main test. I'll go to Callum this one. What do you want to see from H. Van der Merwe and Josh Adams to start it? Do you want to see a good performance out of them, and it'll help their confidence going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's safe to say that of all the players. I think it will be mainly both Josh Adams and Duhan van der Merwe will be competing for the left wing spot in the tests, with maybe Liam Williams and Elliot Daly sort of slightly outside of that. I think they both have good matches this Saturday. I don't think it will play a massive role because it's still only the first game as to who gets in the test side, but I mean, they're, again, both capable. I'd say Duhan van der Merwe was one of the... I mean, folk can say stuff about his defensive ability sometimes, but he's one of the players I think genuinely has an X factor about him. Like, when he has the ball, his stats in the Pro 14 are off the scale with the amount of defenders he beats, with the line breaks he makes, the tries he scores. I think he's one of those players, I think, he's got the ability to really cause, like, that damage consistently to the box side. So, I mean, again, maybe somewhat I'm speaking from the heart here, perhaps, but I'd have him in as the test 11 right now. But as I've said earlier with other things, there's still a lot of rugby to be played.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think I'll go back to Ben here. You've seen Lewis Rees-Salmons, playing for Wales, and I think he's one of the youngest players in that squad, and to see him having a great tournament for Wales. How do you feel about Lewis Rees-Salmons in the main test series? If you want to see it work out, how do you see Lewis Rees-Salmons in the stir?
I think it'll very much be a case of, we saw a few years back that it very much depends, especially as your wingers, how well you're performing going into that first test. If you're scoring tries, if you're making line breaks, then the likelihood is you start. I think the fast tracks of South Africa are going to suit Louis Rees really, really well. But from the heart, I think for me, the one wing, I have to say, and I'm going against heart here, I think Duhan van der Merwe has one of those test wing spots, because I think he offers something different. And I think the thing that you look at the wingers there, Anthony Watson, Stuart Hogg is likely to start at 15, so you're considering Liam Williams as a winger, Josh Adams, Elliot Daly as well. We didn't talk about him when it came to the centre contention. He could play in the centre as well.
He's best in his centre.
Yeah, I think he's far better in the centre. But I think with Duhan, you look at what he does for Scotland when he comes off his wing looking for work, and I think that is what's going to make the difference in South Africa. Not trying to beat your opposite man, but finding a space to beat someone else. And he will come in looking for that work. He will play that ball carrying role, which raises the question, if you need another ball carrier in the centre, play Duhan out on the wing and just get him involved. Get him involved off first phase, have him coming in off that wing. Josh Adams is really good at that as well. Recently saw for the Cardiff Blues, he scored some lovely tries where he changes his line so well right at the last minute to Fox defenders. The likes of the players that they're going to be up against, Ches and Colby, he's not shy to put a tackle in, even because of his size. So Duhan's going to have to go looking for work, but I would love to have him in the test side. But it very much depends on how he goes Saturday. If he does go looking for work, or if Gatland has told him to, stay within his channels and take his chances.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, Ben, we haven't talked about Dilly yet. I mean, I'll come back to Freddie on this one. When you see the likes of a Josh Adams and a H. Van der Merwe in there, now I can probably understand that Elliot Dilly probably won't come in yet, but he'll be part of the squad. For Elliot Daly's sake, do you think Elliot Daly deserves a place in this Lions squad? Because I don't think Elliot Daly has lived up this year in terms of how he's played for England. I mean, what do you think about Elliot Daly in the squad?
To be fair to him, he's not a fullback, and Eddie Jones has shoved him in a position where he's not good at it. It's just plain fact. his best position is centre and he can cover wing, but nowhere near he should be in fullback role. But if you're talking about wingers, for me, if pure on form wingers, Anthony Watson is the most informed winger. I don't know about doing I would go on the other one. In form, Watson is. I think Watson he has that X factor just to make line breaks. He beats if he gets tackled, he gets those extra couple of meters. If he doesn't make, he makes a clean break. You just know if he breaks the first bit of contact, and I think he just has that match. If he's not going to start, I think you need him on the bench because he has that just a bit of match to create something for nothing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be even though Josh Adams and it's hard to debate if them two will start going forward, but I think there's going to be some good talent in there, and I think we picked the right players. I just think I hope we don't get ahead of ourselves if they end up having bad tournaments. I'm probably going to be wrong on that point, but I just hope let's just all hope it's all good and well, and these guys kind of score. Imagine they score tries for fun against the South African team who are potentially going to be potentially going to be giving it to us. Like I think South Africa are very much good at defending. I mean, I've been looking hard into South Africa lately in terms of their how they play. Now, South Africa haven't played rugby really since that final against England. I'm sure you're aware, Freddie. I mean, it's a case of what are South Africa going to be playing? I think that South Africa they've got 2 games like us. They've got some 2 games against Georgia. I think against Georgia to sort of get themselves up to match fitness, and I'll go with all views in this one. I want to see. I don't want to go into this tour like South Africa could potentially be soft after not having a game in about nearly 2 years. I kind of want to see a South Africa that are going to be ruthless, who are going to be intense, who are going to give it to the Lions and not just have it just like we want to see it one way, but we want to see South Africa sort of give a good game to us. I think I'll go to all of you, and let's go to Ben first. South Africa, for not having a game for about a year and a half since that England game, and they've got 2 games against Georgia. What do you want to see South Africa do in them games to make sure that they can give us a game? In terms of that wise.
I think they've got to take those 2 games against Georgia as if they're playing in the Rugby Championship or if it's a Test Series or a World Cup, because regardless of the opposition, they need to get those players back up to Test match level. And, we talk about the likes of Colby, who's been playing out with Toulouse, and he's had plenty of experience there. A lot of the South African players have come back in and played a large part of the Pro 14 Rainbow Cup. But I think the frightening thing for South Africa is that their best side that they had to offer, the Blue Bulls, got absolutely smashed by Benetton, who were the side that finished bottom of the Pro 14. So, I know they did put a slightly weakened side out for that, but you've still got to look at it from the respect that these players are not as exposed to that top level of Test rugby as they should be going into it. You've got small pockets of players that are, but for the likes of Pieter-Steph du Toit, has only played games in South Africa in the last year, and that's only come in recent weeks where they've been playing in this Mickey Mouse Cup. Dwayne Vermeulen is out injured as a result of playing in that tournament as well. So it's a real mixture here, and I think the biggest difficulty they have is those players have got to come together from effectively around the globe. You've got players coming from Ireland, you've got players coming from England, you've got players coming from France. They're all coming back into that Test match environment, and they've got to hit the ground running quickly because they've got 2 games, and then it's prep time before they play the Lions.
I mean, definitely. I mean, I'll ask the same question to you, Cal. I mean, do you agree with what Ben said in terms of they take these games to Georgia and win by maybe 30, 40 points to maybe even up the odds and said, all right, let's just go and prove them wrong, that we're still the best, the so-called best team in the world at the moment in terms of after winning that final. I mean, you kind of want to see that from South Africa against Georgia, wouldn't you, Cal?
Yeah, I mean, full agreement that I want to see South Africa go in as well prepared as possible, same as the Lions. And I think the Georgia test, I mean, again, one could argue, no disrespect to Georgia, but because it's Georgia, like they might put again like a big near enough a cricket score on them. But At the same time, it's like one could argue, like also it's they're getting back together again. They're sort of playing as a team again. As Ben said rightly, they're coming from all different corners of the globe. And obviously the COVID thing, restrictions there can might play a factor, but that'll be a factor for both sides. So I'd say absolutely want to see sort of the I mean, regardless of how well they do against Georgia, just the fact they'll get together and they'll have some game time before the test, I think that will it will only favour them and get them in good stead. I think, and I do expect them to be in time for that for first or second test to them to be near their top level again, and we should be in for a cracking series.
So I definitely, Freddie, I'll come back to you again last time about this situation with South Africa. I mean, if you remember, Freddie, unfortunately they beat you in the final not about a year and a half ago, and I'm sure it wasn't the best feeling for you. But you've seen South Africa, you've seen them like I'm not having a game for about a year and a half now, and it's just a case of what happens if they go out? What happens, Freddie, if they go out play Georgia, but they win the game, but it was it wasn't the sort of scoreline they would have hoped it to be? Would you see South Africa sort of lean that path, or or would you see South Africa sort of rusty in terms of coming into the tour? How do you see it?
I see it being them being they will. I think it's crucial for them to get game time, connections, systems together. I think that is the most crucial part, and they need to get the highest level to the highest level they can to face the British now, because a lot of these players, I think high percentage, have played a good standard in Premiership, Pro 14, and Top 14. These Northern Hemisphere have really produced. But I think the question mark is, especially for them, they are going to miss Mervyn. But overall, I think South Africa will be ready, and they just get the full fitness sharp as they can.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think they'll be ready. I think if you remember 2009, it wasn't the best feeling ever. I mean, that second test, that last kick is absolutely gutting, because you would have loved to have seen. I don't think I've ever seen Lions beating the South Africans, going down to South Africa and winning tests in my lifetime. But it's definitely something we can look on, and hopefully we can actually go there and do that. I think I've got not long to go now in terms of wrapping this up, but I want to pull up just two more questions about this. We're going to be playing Japan this Saturday, and it's going to be we're going to be playing in Murrayfield. Cal's home nation. They're going to host the first game. It's going to be in front of home fans, and it's going to be bizarre, but at first, I'm pretty sure the Lions fans will be great to get out to Murrayfield, and they'll be cheering them on, especially the Scotland lads. And look, I'm going to give a few score predictions ahead of this game here. So I'm going to go to Cal first. How do you see the Lions facing South Africa, facing Japan on Saturday, and how do you see that scoreline going?
I think it'll be fairly close. Actually, I think I'll say the Lions by about 7 to 10 points, because I think there will be rustiness there. I think Japan, as Ben said, they have picked a good side for this match, and they'll. We saw how they played at the World Cup as well. So they're more than capable of playing some really, really great rugby. So, but I think the Lions will just come through at the end. It'll be, I'll say 7.7 to 10 points for the Lions.
Nice work. And Freddie, I'll come to you. Similar question. How do you see it going?
I think what Gatland will be looking just to get combinations going together, systems. They'll be a bit rusty, but I agree with Carl. I think it'll be between 7 to 10 points. I think it'll be closer than people think.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Ben, I'll come back to you as well. How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think first games of the tour is always just about getting the tour off to a good start to put into place some of the things they've been working on over the last fortnight or so. And traditionally, when they're playing new combinations, it's likely that it'll probably be sort of a rusty game. So I I think the Lions, but I do think that they'll start to make a more commanding lead towards the last, sort of 20 minutes of the game. So I think go Lions by 10 to 15.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to wrap it up myself. And I think I see the Lions getting off to a good start with the players that we've got. I think there's some really good informed players in there. I think what we will want to see is a great Lions win. So I agree with what you're all saying. It could be 10 to 15 points. I'm going to go with 15 points as well because I think Japan, after that World Cup, have shown great determination in terms of trying to get up the ranks. And I think Japan will give us a really good, proper international test at Murrayfield on Saturday. So I'm going with 16 points to the Lions to win. So before we go, I just want to wrap this up. With a basic question, we've got Warren Gatland, we've got Gregor Townsend, Robin McBride, Steve Tandy, and Neil Jenkins as our coaches, and they've been the selected coaches going forward. Now I don't know if Andy Farrell will come in later on for the main test, but that's the way it's going. For the coaches to get this right, they'll be doing all their behind the scenes stuff. They'll be doing all their coaching right now. How did these coaches get it right after drawing the test in New Zealand, which was so unlucky? But the coaching, going forward with the coaching, how do you see these? Do you see these coaches doing a very good job, and how do you think? How do you see the coaches getting with the players, and how do you think they'll be able to get them ready for the big games coming up? And do you think they'll do a good job overall? I'll go with Freddie on this one first.
Yeah, I do think. I think Gatland, if he had the choice, he would want to keep the exact same Lions coaching team as last time, but unfortunately couldn't. But I think they have to get it. They don't have to get it right in the first. They can mix and match in these first games and try different things, but they have to get it right in the first place. All guns blazing. But I think overall they got a good combination of coaches. Some have been there before, some haven't been there before on the Lions team. So I think Gatland's done the choices there.
Oh yeah. So I'll wrap it up. I'll say the same question to you, Ben.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, this is probably Warren Gatland's last big coaching job, and I think he'll want to leave a legacy on rugby. With all the jobs that he's had and all the teams that he's coached, he will go down as one of the greatest Lions coaches of all time. He's been involved in, this will be his 4th tour now. And it is absolutely imperative that he parks aside this, that we talk about Warren Ball and the links with Wales. He parks that to one side. You know he will, but he has got to get together this group of 36 guys and get them to beat the best side in the world. And I think with the greatest of respect, to my home nation, I think that he will be mindful of the fact that some of the best players come from other countries and some of the best players who are in form at the moment are outside of those sort of players that he knows and he's comfortable with. But he's got to be bold and he's got to make those decisions. He showed with the Brian O'Driscoll decision in 2013. He's not scared to make the big calls and drop the big players. So, and likewise with Sam Warburton in the first test in 2017, didn't select him. Peter O'Mahony got the captain's armband, and Warburton didn't play. So it's absolutely imperative that he makes those big decisions, but he's comfortable making them as well, and he's got the reasons behind him why he's doing it, because this is his last big hurrah with coaching, I think.
Oh yeah, no, Ben. I don't think Brian O'Driscoll has sort of forgotten about that moment of him being dropped. But I can understand why he did that again with Davis in the last test. But it definitely worked out. But you got to respect Gallen for that. And finally, Cal, I'll come back to you to finish this off. And how do you see Gallen and the coaches doing? And how do you think he finishes off on a high? Hopefully, against the Springboks in a win. He would have had a win against Australia in the test. He would have drawn in New Zealand, and hopefully he can win it in the Springboks, which would be going down as one of the best coaches we've ever had. How do you see it going for Warren Gatland and the coaches going forward? And how can they give us something to cheer about?
Well, winning the test series, pretty simple. The answer to there, Stephen. But no, I think I echo what the other guys have said there. Although I have to say though, I was a few years ago I was probably down with this, but more I've kind of thought about it. I don't really like the term Warren Ball, mainly just because you do look at Gatland's pedigree and all the things he's won, and the selections he's made, as we've alluded to before. He does have that ability, and he shows he does have that ability to mix it up, and that shows with the 3 number 8s he's taken on this tour. They're all more ball playing number 8s with very quick. He's gone for them over the power number 8s, because if he wanted to go for power, he had the options of either Billy Vunipola or CJ Stander, and he's left out both of them and gone for Simmons, Falatau, and Conan. But no, so I think it shows he does have that ability to play with that variety when needed, and also just with his ability to get together and bond aside. Him and Ian McGeechan, I think, have to go down as two of the best coaches to be able to do this in terms of getting players together from 4 different countries and over a short period of time managed to bond them as a team. And and as much as like we from the outsiders, whether that's behind our couch on social media or in the media itself, in some cases can put our criticisms across and like have our own views about how right we are compared to them and how we know everything. And I think we're all guilty of that to a point. At the end of the day, Gatlin's like reputation, he showed he's, as Ben was saying, he's not afraid to make calls. And I'd say about 70-80% of the calls he's made throughout his coaching career have turned out to be the right ones. And, he's got the results. Again, sometimes with the brand of rugby, whether you like it or not, can be debated. Of course it can, but at the end of the day, like, it's a professional game, and if he takes this Lions side to a test series, then yeah, I think he has to be up there with the greatest coaches Lions have ever had. Absolutely, him and Ian McGeechan, he'd be in that bracket 100%.
I mean, well said from all of you. I think that's what we're all looking for now in this test. Not long to go, 2 tests to go. So just one more thing. How do you see the scoreline being at the end of the tour? 3-0 or 2-1? I'll go to Cal first, and then I'll go to Freddie, then come to Ben. So how do you see, is it 3-0 or 2-1 to the Lions?
I don't think either side will win 3-0. I think it'll be... I don't know. I think it will go down to the wire of the last test. I'll say... I'll sit on the fence. I'll say it'll be 2-1 either way.
Aye. So, Freddie, what would you?
I think both sides will win. I think it's going to be a draw again. I think there's going to be a last minute penalty or something. I do think it'll be.
Yeah, I don't want to see that going through that again. The nerves, man, the nerves and talent. Yeah. So, Ben, what's the score at the end of the tour?
2-1 Lions. We're going to win the first 2 tests, and then we're going to party hard and not give a shit about the 3rd test.
Yeah, that's the mindset. That's completely the mindset of what we are. For me, screw it. I'm going to go 3-0. I'm going to go 3-0 the Lions. We're going to dominate the Springboks. We're going to be the best team in the world, and we're going to be unstoppable. And that brings us to the end of the video. And I just want to say thanks to these brilliant guys. Kyle representing Scotland, Freddie representing England, Ben representing Wales, and myself representing Ireland. All of us 4 nations have to do a part now. It's up to the Lions now, up to these a lot of these guys from these nations to go and do the job for us. That we know we can go and be the best team in the world, and then we'll be unstoppable and to finish off on a high, because that's what we want this summer. Great rugby. So thank you all very much for listening. I'll be back for the end of the game on Saturday for a post-match reaction. And I just want to say thank you all for watching. Thank you very much to my guests for coming on today for this preview of the tour. And let's just hope the Lions can do the job. Thank you all very much for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next video. Thank you very much.